Hello and welcome to 𝗤𝗂𝗀 Associates here in Dubai, part of the Samana Group. We look after investments, real estate and immigration services. My name is Nicholas. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. And I want to talk to you today about the Portugal Golden Visa. So the benefits of the Golden Visa are why a second passport, visa-free travel, internationally accredited, and relocation and tax benefits. Now I'm going to go through these quite quickly. Obviously, if you're joining this seminar, you obviously know why a second passport, but just to give you a few more pointers that you might not have thought of. Obviously, you've got security for your business and your family. You've got the enhanced global mobility, ability to open bank accounts globally. You've got the business globability as well for opening businesses. You have wealth protection, looking at tax angles, which obviously I'm sure you'd be interested in, and investment diversification. And obviously, once you get the citizenship, it goes on for years. It's not just a short-term thing. This passes on to generations. So it's a major gift that you can give to the family. It's a provision to keep, there are provisions with some to keep your current nationality, although that would depend on really whether you're going for more of a residency program or more of just a second passport. This Portugal program is all about residency, which as I go through the presentation, you'll see and you'll get to understand the difference. As a business, 𝗤𝗂𝗀, well, we're internationally accredited. We have complete confidentiality at all times with our clients. We have highly confidential systems in place within the company for data collection and also for reminder systems, not only for our team, but also for yourselves as the document process progresses through until we can submit documents, obviously, for your visa. We're associated with government regulated CBI bodies, members of immigration regulatory bodies, and we're partnered with some worldwide governments as well. We've got decades of knowledge and experience. We've been in the business over 20 years, and we have a big team of sales and processing people that help you all the way through the journey. And this is a journey to get the permanent residency of 5 years. So we're with you all the way, holding your hand through the whole system for the initial visa, golden visa you will receive, and renewals as well, until you get your PR, and we can stay with you all the way through that until naturalization. Obviously, Portugal is one very, very strong passport within the European Union. You have travel to over 187 visa-free or visa-on-arrival countries. There's no more time-consuming visa applications. No need to plan ahead for business and pleasure. It's just a world of accessible business, travel, and again, save substantial costs when you're talking about filling out visa forms and paying for visas to travel to different countries. Also, with Portugal, there are a lot of benefits. Your permanent residency, like I said earlier, get in 5 years. Citizenship can be within 6 years, as long as the 5-year PR is fulfilled. And I'll go more into that as we go through the presentation. 7 days in country per annum is the first year, the second year, and third year, and fourth year, and fifth year. It works more on a 14 days consecutive time in the country. So that can be spread over the 2-year period. There's no personal income or wealth tax in Portugal for anybody who's a non-resident. No inheritance tax. It was abolished in 2004. Capital gains tax exemptions for non-residents, and tax residents are classified as more than 183 days per annum of each fiscal year. Now, there are some very good tax benefits with Portugal, which again I'll go through further in the presentation. But that really means you need to be a tax resident. And if you're going to be a tax resident, then again, as it says, you need to be 183 days in the year. Portugal's tax year, fiscal year, is from January to December. So as we'll see a little later on, I'll go into a little bit more depth to let you understand how that all works. Also, a very good thing about Portugal is it's a crypto tax haven. No capital gains or personal income tax for crypto transactions, as long as you're not trading in services. Okay, so what is a golden visa? Some of you will already know what a golden visa is, but I thought I'd pop it in here for you. Basically it's just an immigration program for individuals to get residency and then eventually get citizenship in another country, purely and simply by purchasing property, making a donation, or some sort of investment in the country. These programs are more of a long-term, looking somewhere for the future to retire to. It can obviously start off as a PR, permanent residency, and then eventually move into citizenship. Portugal Golden Visa Program is one of the best programs in Europe, actually, and it's one of the most competitive. It's had over 10,000 applications since it started in 2012, and through those applications there's well over 17,000 people enjoying the Portugal lifestyle, basically. It's targeted again at non-EU citizens obtaining EU residency or citizenship. Who's investing in Portugal? Well, this is a good question. I get asked this quite a lot as to who your main clients or who the people you're dealing with. Well, to be honest, it's a mix. It really is a mix. But the main sort of categories, I put them in here for you, which are the Chinese, the Brazilians. Obviously, the Brazilians have a bit of a language benefit because they speak Portuguese anyway, which gets over one hurdle of the residency program for them. But there's also Turkish, South African, and the Russians. Like I said, since 2012, the Golden Visa benefits, are appealing to so many people that, like with over 10,000 applications and residencies granted, and over 17,000 enjoying the benefit. But one thing before I continue to really consider this is that 4 out of these 5 are not a non-Portuguese speaker. So, and I want you to really bear that in mind from now, because I'm going to cover that a little bit later on in the presentation. But for me, this is a really, really big important part. That 4 out of these 5, and obviously there's many more nationalities as well, but 4 out of the 5 are non-Portuguese speaking, and they're already enjoying the benefits, and obviously you could too. So what are the options? Well, the main option that everybody goes for is the real estate investment. The reason being is because it's very straightforward and very easy to do. Over 90% of the 10,000 applications have all gone for this option. There's actually 8 options in total, and most of them I'm going to be covering here under each of these headings. So you've got designated interior areas of an investment of 500,000 or 350,000, and that is really dependent on where those areas are. Now, in January this year, there was some changes that came into effect, and those changes basically mean that the Algarve, Lisbon, and Porto are now not within the Golden Visa application process. So basically, if you buy a property there, you cannot apply for the Golden Visa based on the fact that you're in these areas, because these areas have become quite overpopulated with a lot of foreign investment. So now the government are wanting to invest, people to come and invest in other areas of the country. And there's some beautiful areas. And as you saw in the beginning, if you joined us while the video was playing, this is a beautiful, beautiful area. It's called 𝗥𝗲𝘀𝗶𝗱𝗄. It's about 1 hour from Lisbon. So basically it's about 93 kilometers away. Also, 𝗥𝗲𝘀𝗶𝗱𝗄 it's on the Sado River, but it's actually 25 minutes from the beaches of Portugal, which are beautiful beaches. I've spent many a year holidaying there. It's the Atlantic Ocean, there's waves, so if you're a bit of a surf buff, then yeah, it's perfect for you. And beautiful weather, you're getting like 300 days of sunshine every year. So that was why I wanted to introduce Portugal to you at the beginning with the video. Like I said, that's 𝗤𝗏𝘀𝗶𝗃𝗃, and I will talk about it a little bit later on in the presentation. Also, under real estate, you can invest in commercial property at €500,000 or €350,000. Now, this you can invest in Lisbon, in areas of Lisbon, and you can invest in Porto for these. And these could be Airbnb or industrial properties. So you do have that choice as well. Business investment and creation of jobs is another option. So you can invest 500,000 in share capital of a Portuguese company. You can create 10 jobs, or you can create 8 jobs in the low density area. Now, if you do the job creation option, basically there's no stipulation on the amount of money. But obviously, there's any business creation, and to employ 10 people or employ 8 people is a substantial investment in a business to be able to do that over a 5-year period. Or you can invest €500,000 in research activities, which is another option. There is another one, which is capital transfer and investment funds. Now, there's an option here for 250,000 investment where you can just invest as a donation to the arts or to some form of heritage site. Or you can invest €500,000 in an investment fund in Portugal. So there's a majority of them. There's also a financial investment. Now, this has gone from €1 million in 2021 to €1.5 million. And that's an investment in a bank deposit or acquisition of public debt instrument or acquisition of share capital of a Portuguese company. So, like I said, this covers all the main options that you have. But I'll go back to the first point. Real estate investment is one that most people tend to do. And if they're just looking at a progressive way of investing now and then changing that investment later, you can do that. It's not a problem, as long as you stay within the areas stipulated by the government. So you can upgrade your property, for want of a better word. You can upgrade to something a bit bigger if that's what you want. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So what are the benefits? Well, Forbes rated Portugal as the best place to live. So that's a very promising for starters. It's the 4th safest place to live in the world. It's the 4th strongest passport in the world. This fluctuates. This was in September last year. It was the 4th strongest at the moment. I think they're recording it around number 5. But it goes between 4 and 5, which is a very, very, very strong, powerful passport. I'm from the UK, and the UK passport's number 7. So it shows you, they are further ahead. And with the UK passport as well, you don't get the same as you do with the Portuguese passport, because you obviously get European residency with it as well. So you're not just tied to Portugal. If you want to go and live in another EU country, you can do that. And there's 26 to choose from, and your children can study there, and obviously you can live there, you can have a business, bank account, whatever you want to do. The PR is extendable to family members. The PR is in 5 years, so it works on like a 2+2+1. Citizenship in 6 years, access to healthcare and education. And I'll go through these benefits a little bit deeper shortly, but you get access to healthcare and education. Generally speaking, in any of these programs, the healthcare, you have to pay private healthcare, but the education is free. And in Portugal, it's free for everybody up until they go to university. And even then, it's only around about €1,000, depending on what the course that your siblings basically want to do or your children want to do. It's reflected in that, but it's around the €1,000 mark for going to university, which is very, very cheap. UK again, £9,000. So just to give you a little comparison there, you also have visa-free and visa-on-arrival travel to 187 countries. There's also non-habitual resident tax, which is 10 years at 20%. Now, this I'll talk about again a little bit later on, but it's a very, very good scheme. Is this? It started in 2009 under a different name. This is a little bit confusing because everybody thinks, oh, it's non-habitual resident tax, so you don't have to live there. But you do. You have to be there for 183 days a year, and you have to join, as a tax resident. But there are substantial benefits here. Compared to maybe where you're living now, and obviously I will talk about that a little bit later on. Tax exemption of inheritance gifts to family. So any gifts, no matter how much they are, there is no taxation on it. There's no wealth tax. There's free remittance of funds to Portugal. So if you're wanting to bring funds to Portugal, you're not going to get taxed on them. Just obviously we'll have to proof of source of funds, obviously. And there's capital gains from crypto transactions. So any capital gains from crypto transactions, cashing out crypto to crypto traders, are not subject to personal income taxes. And to be honest, this has really sparked a lot of these people who have invested in cryptocurrency to move to Portugal. And recently I've been involved and in discussion with a few people, and 2 or 3 of them, they're basically living off their investments, and some are really wanting to expand this within a country like Portugal to get other people to come and invest in the country as well because of this cryptocurrency benefit. Permanent residency. Well, the applicant is at least 18 years of age. The stays per year, so 7 days for year 1, and 14 days for each 2 consecutive years over the 5-year period. Spouse and children. Now, this is where people get a little bit, well, no, it's not. It's 18. It's not the case with children. You can bring your children up to the age of 26 as long as they're financially dependent on you and they're in full-time education. And now you can say, well, why would my child be in education at 26? They need to be working. Well, obviously, but a lot of children, maybe your children want to go on and do a PhD or go on to further studies. If they do, they can do this in Portugal. Portugal has actually got very, very good educational facilities. I think they are number 2 or 3 in Europe for their business schools. So it's very good. They also have the public schools and the private schools. And the private schools, you can send your children there. It can cost about €9,500 a year to send your children, and then you've got book costs and everything else. But just to give you an idea on the fees, it's around about that if you would want your children to go to a private school. One thing to be cautious of is that you'd have to look at the area you want to live if you are going to become a living resident in Portugal. You need to look at some of the areas because these schools are not everywhere. So if you were going to move to Portugal and you're going to live there, then obviously consider where the schooling is or your preferential schools and universities are. So obviously you need sufficient subsistence and financial means, which goes without saying, and I'm sure if you're watching this webinar, you will have that anyway. Proof of basic Portuguese language A2 international level beginner. Now I don't want you all switching your computers off when you say, oh, I've got to learn the language. Now, if anybody's going to learn the language, and he's the worst person in the world to language is myself, but it's achievable, and I've started and I'm working on learning a language, and I'm going to go into this a little bit later on because to me it's so important to enjoy all what Portugal has to offer than to just learn the language. You won't have problems in the country because a lot of the younger generation, probably people up to in the 40s, early 40s, will all be speaking English, will all be speaking Portuguese. So, and Spanish as well, they tend to speak in Portugal as well, in that sort of generation. In the hospitals, I don't know if you've ever been to Spain, but if you've been to Spain, you will find a lot of the doctors and nurses in the hospital only speak Spanish, whereas in Portugal they speak English. So that's a really good added benefit as well while you're learning the language. it holds the initial property purchased. You need to hold that for the 5-year period. You can change it partway through, but like I said earlier, you need to be considering that if you're changing it, it has to come under the whatever the terms are for the real estate for golden visa. So just bear that in mind, but there is the option. Obviously, the next thing, once you've got your permanent residency, is you're going to want to get your citizenship. Again, applicants 18 years of age. Citizenship can come in about 6 years. There are some delays. That's purely been down to COVID. But generally speaking, we say about 6 years. It could be a little bit longer, but Portugal are quite good on this front. The SCF, as they call it, which the Foreign Border Office, they're quite good at getting the applications through. But obviously, things have been a bit challenging recently because of the situation with COVID. I didn't mention at the beginning, but if you want to have any questions, I'll address them all at the end. But by all means, drop me a message, and at the end, I'll answer all your questions. The applicant has to be a resident of Portugal for 5 years. So you need to fulfill the 7 days. 7 days, it's a holiday. And honestly, if you've never been, it's a beautiful country. I highly recommend you go and see it. It's 7 days. That's all it is. And you can then enjoy all the benefits of Portugal. Portugal is very, very cheap cost of living. Things like your daily necessities of life, water, and all your vegetables and your fruit and everything else. A lot of it is grown in Portugal, and it's quite an agricultural country. So everything like that is very, very cheap. So you're probably paying something like €1 or thereabouts per kilo for your fruit and vegetables. So applicant has been a resident of Portugal for 5 years. Again, the 7-day rule applies. Applicants held a residency permit for at least 5 years. And during the last 5 years, the individual has not been convicted of a crime. All of these programs are like that anyway. You know that you have to fulfill these basic criteria. Again, sufficient financial subsistence to live in Portugal, obviously, and tangible connections within the Portuguese community. And these can be a number of different things. Anything tangible within your connections can be, you could be joining a gym, you could be involved in the local community group, you pay your municipality charges, which are a tangible part of living in Portugal anyway. But they just want to feel that, to give you that valued passport, that golden ticket for the rest of the world, that they want people to be certainly thinking about settling down in Portugal and benefiting from all the benefits of the country. Now, as I said, I wanted to touch on this point, which is the language test. I'm not going to try and say it in Portuguese, but they call it the 𝗤ci𝗿𝘋𝗶𝗿. And to be eligible to apply for the citizenship through Portugal's Golden Visa program, you're required to take this exam. Now, the exam is a beginner level. Now, each level has two, so you have like A1, A2, and then it goes like B1, B2, C1, C2, as you get more and more advanced. All you require is A2 beginner. Now, it's an oral comprehension that you have to do. It's a 2-hour exam. It's 30 minutes of oral comprehension, which is short sentences of an everyday conversation. Now, you're already going on your holidays now to Portugal because you want your PR. So if you're going on your holidays to Portugal, you're going to be speaking the language. Are you going to try or have a go? Okay, as far as '𝗿𝗏𝗍, but this is a great way of learning. And if you're doing this as a family, what better way can you learn learn the language when you're all doing it together? And I'm pretty sure, if you're like me, your kids will really help with anything like that. And it is achievable. Trust me, it's achievable. So reading and writing, 75 minutes. Reading is like reading little news stories, short stories, simple texts, questions based around the text they'll give you, which are generally a multiple choice. Compose short phrases, expressions frequently used. So it's all making it easy for you because it's all the things that you will be doing anyway on your trips to Portugal. Oral expression, it says 15 minutes, but it isn't actually 15 minutes because two of you do it at a time. So you're probably doing it for about 6 or 7 minutes, if that 5 minutes. It's just simple everyday phrases based around various topics. So it might be asking for bread, for milk, for doing something like that. And this is the percentage in the grading. This is 𝗤𝗏𝘃𝗶𝗴𝗹. I'll put the link on there as well if you wanted to know that down. It promotes the learning of the Portuguese. Courses are run worldwide, so you might even find in your, the country that you're in at the moment that they run a course there, and they have online resources as well. I always recommend with things like this is to find somebody who's a good or a native Portuguese speaker, and just get them to come and teach you, and just take lessons, maybe an hour or a few hours a week. Now, based on that, the understanding is when you learn a language, it's about 200 hours. Now, you've got 5 years to learn that language. There's no, you can learn it in year 1, or you can learn it in year 3, or you can learn it in year 5. But the sooner you start, obviously the better, and every time you go to Portugal, you can be practicing while you're there. You only have to score 55%. That's all you have to score. And you pass it, you get a certificate, you present that with your documentation, and then you get your passport. So it's something that not to run away from or shy away from with something like this. I think personally, it's something you should embrace and enjoy learning a second language. And what better way of doing it with your family? Okay, so that's about the language. But I just wanted to get that clear because this is always something people always feel, oh, well, I couldn't do that. But I think this is very, very feasible for somebody to do. And like I say, you've got 5 years to do it. The statistics show 200 hours you can learn the language. Okay. Now, how does it all work? So the process, as it were. Well, first of all, it's up to you if you want to. You can, from AAA's point of view, we work with a firm of lawyers. We have lawyers in Portugal, and you can get a power of attorney, which will basically, they can represent you to save you having to go to Portugal all the time. Or you can do it yourself and just keep making the frequent trips, improving your language skills and everything else. It's entirely up to you. And once that power of attorney is put in place, that's all the way there for the 5-year period and on to get your naturalisation as well. You need a tax representation declaration, which is basically called an NIF. It's a 9-digit number, and you get a card with the number on. And basically, you need that bit for setting up a business, for opening a bank account, for any sort of business transactions or financial transactions. You will need that to continue on the journey of the Portugal Golden Visa. You open a Portugal bank account. You make your property acquisition and final deed. Once you've opened your bank account, you put the money in your bank account. Nobody should, and if anybody tells you any different, it's not the case. You should put the money into the bank account yourself, and it's there for you. You shouldn't be paying that money over to anybody else. Your property acquisition and final deed, that's when you pay your money. You get your final deed, and then that we need in order to process the application. Then you do an online application for the Golden Visa. Then you will have to travel to Portugal with your family to do your biometrics in Portugal. And then after that, you will get issued with your Golden Visa. And that will be a card, and it will be in your passport, like a visa in your passport as well. Okay, so that's the process. And it takes, well, we always say, and it has been about 8 to 10 months, but with this issue we've been having with the COVID situation, things have got delayed, so it's turned into the 12-month period now. So the sooner, if you want to take this journey, the sooner you start, then obviously the quicker we can get the whole process moving forward. And generally speaking, with these programs, the governments tend to change depending on how successful they are. So they're changing the programs all the time, year in, year out. So, the sooner you start the program, the quicker you get to your 5 years and you get to the original passport. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the 𝗤𝗏𝘀𝗃𝗃, which I think is a perfect solution, and it's something that we are involved in as the Samana Group, as it were. This is a beautiful city. It's a Portuguese city belonging to the 𝗤ci𝗿𝘃𝗃 district in 𝗤𝗏 region, and one of the oldest cities in Europe. It's Portugal's second largest municipality. It's near Portugal's Atlantic Ocean, as I said before, and beaches about 25 minutes away. It's got the 𝗤𝗏 River running through, so it reflects the history and the culture of the city. It's predominantly an agricultural city, so obviously your fruit and your vegetables and everything else you'll be able to get, like I said, very, very cheap. There's markets, there's a castle. The 𝗤𝗏𝘀𝗃𝗃 actually has a property there, and he's actually built a mosque, and he's put a lot of investment himself into the area. And that's why, you know, so we've got the video at the front. The property that we have available for this at the moment is there's no agency fees, and that's quite expensive in Portugal, so that saves on that. It's a property in a low density area, and the low density areas are just as the government stipulates, so it's per population per head basically. The studio apartments, they're fully refurbished. It's basically it's a building that's over 30 years old that's having a full refurbishment. And it's the second row back from the 𝗤𝗏 River. When you consider the 𝗤𝗏 River properties on the river, the 2.5 million, this particular property is a very good investment. And I would encourage you to speak with our sales team, and they will be able to tell you all about how the process works, how much the properties are. But like I said, it's a really, really good way of getting your foot in the door with the property solution. And these are going at about €280,000, which is based on the golden visa on this low density area and the regeneration program, and obviously in a 30-year-old building. And it's not just a case of, I think with these kind of properties, when you're buying them, it's something that you can just put in your portfolio, and when you come to want to to surrender it, or your visa comes up and you want to sell it, or you're moving, then you want something bigger, then you've got something already in Portugal to sell. If as a non-resident, there is capital gains tax to pay on any profit that you make on the property if you did sell it within the 5-year period or at the end of the 5-year period. If you're a resident of Portugal and you're doing 183 days there, then obviously you can roll that over into another property, and there's no capital gains tax. It's got a lot of benefits. As this one, I just say to people, just something like this is great. You can just you go down the route. It's not way over expensive, and the Portugal real estate market over the last 6 years has been increasing by about, on average, 8%. So again, it would have to be a very, very high risk investment to be getting something like 8% back. And the thing with the investment programs is there's only a number of different investments that you can invest in. A majority of them are over 5 years. So some of them actually stretch for a 10-year period, and they're generally set up by venture capital companies. And again, it's all about reinvesting in a Portuguese company. So again, come back, talk to the sales team. Like I say, I think this is a perfect solution to go forward, get your 5-year golden visa, get your PR, go on and then get your passport. I just think it's a great option. Okay, so if we have any questions, I finished the presentation there. So if we can just see any questions. So let's have a look here. So somebody's saying to me, how much does it cost? Well, basically, it varies really. As I said in the beginning, it depends really what you want to do. Do you want to invest in real estate? Do you want to invest in any other means? it's just entirely up to you how you invest. Like I said, this particular one that I showed you at the end in 𝗥𝗲𝘀𝗶𝗱𝗲𝘁 is about 280,000, and then you've got all your costs on top. So it's going to work out just over 300,000 euros for a single applicant. So if it's just you on your own, it's about 300,000 euros. But like I said, best thing is talk to give us a call. The number's on the screen. And speak with the sales team, and they'll, it depends on your family size. Do you want to bring your parents? You can bring your parents of the age of 65. You can bring your children. You can bring any dependent siblings that if you have any siblings that you're guardianship over, you can include them as well. So, that's another option for you. Another question is, what kind of document does the applicant get when the golden visa is approved? Well, you'll get a card, and you'll also get, the visa will be in your, it'll be in your passport as well. So somebody's asking me, is it possible to make a property investment as co-ownership? Well, it is, but you both have to make the same investment. So basically, if it's the minimum, if it's in an area like 𝗥𝗲𝘀𝗶𝗱𝗲𝘁, then you would have to put 280,000 in each. Or if it's obviously a much higher investment, you have to make sure that your investment covers, whether it be 350, 500, 1.5 million, whatever the investment is, you have to make sure that you cover that investment as co-ownership. Could my golden visa application be rejected? Well, it could, but generally speaking, they don't. The only reason they get rejected is if any false information is given, any documents are forged, or anything like that. That's the only time it will be rejected. But generally speaking, they don't. Another question: will I receive free healthcare with my golden visa? Well, as I said earlier, you won't get free healthcare with the golden visa. You'll get free education for your children, but you won't get the golden visa, the healthcare. The healthcare, you have to pay for private healthcare, and then when you get the PR at the end, then you will get the healthcare. It will come automatically. How long does it take to make a decision regarding the residence permit? So how long does it take to get a residence? Well, once all the documents are collected and they're submitted, we should probably take maybe 3 or 4 months, and in between that, you've made a trip to Portugal and opened your bank account and registered for your national insurance number. So it tends to take quite a while. The residence permit itself will come at the end of the 5-year period with all the documentation submitted. So it's the whole process from start to finish. Like I said, it's about 8 to 10 months to get the golden visa. But the residency permit will come for 5 years, and that again will be submitting further documentation to make sure that you've fulfilled all the requirements, which I discussed earlier in the presentation. So yes, it's not the starting point to get the golden visa is where the main documentation. If you have a certificate or that you can speak Portuguese, that can be submitted at the same time, and that doesn't have to be submitted later on. But that's maybe one of the main documents that you would require for your residence. Can I buy a property through my company? Well, buying a property through your company is, you can. The answer, I suppose I can say, you can buy a property through your company, but I would probably recommend you didn't go down that route, because it's very, very irksome. There's a lot of documentation. There's probably going to be a lot of time spent in Portugal, even if you have a power of attorney. So I'd probably avoid it, depending on how much time you're going to spend in Portugal. If you're going to become a full-time resident, it's probably not the way to go, but it is something you can do. But that's something we would have to talk a lot more about, because it's a lot more detailed. What kind of document does the application qualification get when the golden visa is approved? We've already said that one. Do children get citizenship if they're born in Portugal? Yes, they do. The citizenship will come when the children are the age of 18, and as long as the parents have fulfilled all the criteria and got the permanent residency and then got the passport, basically then the children will be eligible for the Portuguese passport. Will all members of the family take the language test, even minors? Children under the age of 10 don't, but any children over the age of 10 would. And generally speaking, they're looking more at people obviously living in Portugal, so the children will be going to school there, and so therefore they will be learning the language anyway. Depending on whether it's a private school or a public school. If they're in a public school, then yes, they'll definitely, because all the syllabus and everything will be in Portuguese. So probably you will be looking at the private or maybe an English-speaking school where the children would still be learning Portuguese as well. Do I have to pay tax in Portugal? Well, you do have to pay tax in Portugal if you're a resident of Portugal. But like I said to you, the non-habitual tax is a great way to go, actually. But again, you have to be a resident of Portugal to apply for it. It was basically aimed at more professionals, but now it's, to be honest, the list is quite extensive. It's really opened up to business people and businessmen, and maybe an accountant, a lawyer, a marketeer. It's really opened up, and there is quite a long list of skill sets for it. But the idea is that you won't pay any tax. You pay 20% tax over a 10-year period on any income generated in Portugal. If your country has a double taxation agreement with Portugal, then you won't pay any tax on anything in Portugal because you've already paid the tax in your country. So they also have that benefit as well, but then you would need to take financial advice on the tax side of it. But it does have great benefits for tax. For example, if you have dividends in your country and you're paid the dividend you need to make sure the dividend is paid in full. And if it's paid in full, then you don't pay any tax on dividends in Portugal. The pension scheme is very good as well, because if you have a pension that you're paid from wherever that pension is coming from, and that you have to fulfill, once you're registered with the tax office in Portugal, then every year you'll fill a tax return. And you can offset different things against that tax return. For example, if you have a property and you've done some refurbishment of the property, you can even bring things like that into your tax return and get some exemptions. It tends to work more with that when you're really selling the property and you're rolling that property over into another property, or to help with any capital gains that you've made. But there are a lot of tax benefits. I mean, the European Union has raised its eyebrows a little bit. They've had to be a bit careful. But like I say, on the pension, it's only 10% tax on your pension in Portugal. Taxes in Portugal can actually go, they start around 14% and go up to about 48%. So this is why this non-habitual residency tax is very good, because you're only paying 20% over a 10-year period. So if you're looking to save on the tax side, then it's a really good way to go. So I would definitely recommend looking into that. And if you wanted to become a resident of Portugal, and any property investments or anything you have where you get an income from them, you won't pay taxation on it in Portugal unless if you've got a double taxation agreement with another country as well, as I mentioned earlier. Do you have 2-bedroom apartments? Well, to be honest, we don't at the moment, but we will in the future. At the moment, we're just doing the studio apartments. But like I say to people, look, just buy, invest. You're going for your golden visa. It's €280,000, and we have some incentives on these at the moment on the studios as well. So if you speak with the sales team, they'll be able to fill you in on all the incentives that we've got. I think we've only got maybe 3 or 4 of these left on the studios, and then we'll be releasing the next, which I think are 1 and 2 bedrooms. So, you know, obviously keep in touch with the sales team to let you know as they become available. Is there any other way to proceed with residency except investing in properties, and what is it, if any? Well, as I said at the beginning, there's 8 different options, but 90% of people that invest in Portugal out of the 10,000 that have already invested. And I think 2021, within the first quarter of 2021, Portugal, the Banco de Portugal registered that 321 million had been invested in property through the Golden Visa scheme. So that shows you in itself how people are looking at the Golden Visa and how they're wanting to invest in a property there. And it's if you look, you know, like I said, these are residency programs. So you want to be thinking about maybe moving there, because if you don't, you won't be able to get the passport. And the 280 is on this particular property, for example, although it's a studio, is something you can Airbnb out. It's going to be ready in about 2 or 3 years, but we have some incentives on it. So again, speak with the sales team, the numbers at the bottom of the screen, and they'll be able to tell you all the incentives that we've got going on the Portugal program. And it's all running and coinciding with me doing the webinar today, that as a business we're wanting to you know, offer our customers something that our competitors cannot offer, and I think we do offer that. And if you speak with the sales team, they'll be able to talk you through that. Do we have to show any specific funds in the bank account? Well, you don't initially. You just need to be able to have the 280,000 in your bank account to get your title deed on your property. And as I said to you, if you're going to live in a country, you need to show that you can sustain yourself while you're living in the country. So you would have to show that you've got funds to do that. But there's no real stipulation. But obviously, it would need to be something fairly substantial. I mean, you know, maybe 5,000–10,000 euros. You could show there would, I think, probably be adequate, depending on the size of the family. But obviously, if you're investing in this property now, it's not going to be ready just yet. But if you were going to live there and you were going to rent a property, obviously there's a cost involved. So it's probably best to show as much as you can. But there is no, answering the question, there is no specific funds in the bank account. What's the maximum time the entire process takes? Well, like I said, it's about 8 to 10 months to get the Golden Visa, and then 5 years to get the passport. But, you know, like I said, this is a very, very, very powerful passport, and gives you opportunities to all the Schengen areas. So 26 countries you can go and live, and you can go and study. So it's definitely worth thinking about. It's a very safe country, like I said. The peace index is coming out number 4. Last year it was showing up as number 3. The passport is number 4. It sort of fluctuates around 4 and 5. So it's not a problem. Can I invest in a 2-bedroom apartment? You can invest in whatever apartment or property size you like, as long as it falls into a low density area or it falls under a rehabilitation program. The low density area are one that most tend to go for. And like I said, we will be having the 2-bedroom apartments in the future. But certainly speak to the sales team, because I'm sure after you've spoken to them, you'll see, it's a worthwhile investment on the studios at the moment. But the 1 and 2 bedrooms will be coming later on in the year. My son's age is 21 years. Will he be eligible to apply from his parents? Yes, he would actually, because he's over the age. As long as he's got the funds, yes, he would be able to apply for his parents. I think you're trying to say here is if he applies, then can he include the parents? As long as the parents are over 65 and dependent upon the son, yes. If the parents have got any large investments coming to them, then no, because you're not dependent. You have to be dependent. This is the whole point of these processes. So they try to make it quite easy for people, but you have to bear in mind that the prize at the end of it is the passport, and like I say, it's a very strong passport. Any due diligence required? Well, every country that you will apply for, whether it's simply a passport that you're looking for with a Caribbean country, or whether it might be, with the UK, with Portugal, with Canada, with any of the residency programs, as well as with the citizenship by investment programs. Yes, they all do due diligence, and there is a cost, obviously, to do that. It's not crazily expensive, but you have to do it, and they do check, because obviously they want to be, giving citizenship to the right people. So they will check. Yes, there will be due diligence. What is the fees? Again, it will depend. There's individual fees for obviously for the applicant and for the spouse and then the children. Again, the numbers are put on the screen. You can get in touch with us by telephone, you can get in touch with us by WhatsApp, you can drop us an email, and the sales team will get back to you and they'll let you know all the breakdown of costs. If you let us know what family, are you looking for a single application, are you looking for a family of 4? If you speak to the team, they will be able to give you a price while you're on the phone with them, or send you a price through WhatsApp. If there any option for residency through a pathway of Dominica? No, there isn't. Obviously, with a Dominican passport, you can go to Portugal because they're part of the Schengen area, but there isn't a pathway through for you to get a residency, or certainly not one that I'm aware of. It's just a golden visa program. There are other ways you can get residency. If you marry a Portuguese person, you can get residency you can get citizenship within 3 years. There are other ways as well through the Jewish community. You can get it through the SERDIC side of the Jewish law. There is an entitlement there as well. There's actually there's about 4 ways, but the main way everybody tends to follow is through the golden visa. As with any of these, you can go and you can live and you can work in the country, but sometimes that becomes a little bit more laboursome, and also becomes a little bit more difficult with the language as well, because they require more if you're actually living and working in the country in order to apply for the passport. Is it mandatory to invest in property, or can invest in other lines where it can generate revenue? Yes, there is. As I said in the beginning, you can invest in a number of different ways. The investment options is €500,000. It could be more. It really does depend on the investment that you invest into. We don't really get involved in the investment side of things. It's one that is tying money up for, generally speaking, a lot longer period of term. If you're wanting a higher rate of return, obviously there's the risk element as well. So we tend to specialize more in the real estate side, and because we have interest in that, it's an easier route for us to work with you. We know that route very, very well, and it's a route that, like I said, over 90% of the people that go for the residency go down. But it's just down to you as an individual how you want to invest in that country. So you can do it, but the investment options at $500,000 and above tend to be longer term than 5 years. So your money is tied up for maybe 10 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever it might be. And then it depends on the rate of return. And there's only a certain number of these schemes as well. Again, is it mandatory to invest in property? No, we touched on that one. Can you please guide, are there any options available in which an applicant can make a ghost investment to get Portugal residency? No, there isn't, to my knowledge, a way you can do that, to be honest. Everything has to be upfront, and as a ghost investment, it will be more complicated, and they don't allow that. So you can't do that. I'm presuming you mean maybe like an angel investor or something like that. not something I've come across a lot, to be perfectly honest, if at all. I'll look into that as well, but to be honest, I really don't think so. Okay, and that next question was, but is there any option for residency in Portugal through a pathway of Dominican? I have my own visa to buy. I want job in Portugal. I won't visit Portugal. Well, we don't even get involved in any jobs in Portugal. We basically, like I say, it's residency that we're looking at, which leads to citizenship by investment. So we don't actually get involved in any other. I think I've answered. We've had a good number of questions here. I've gone through all those. My name is Nicholas again. You can get a hold of me on any of these contact details, whether it be email, whether it be telephone, whether it be WhatsApp. If you go through to these numbers, they can come through to me. If you have any further questions that you want to ask later on, I'm always available. And or if you want to discuss it in further detail, I'm willing to do that as well. But once again, thank you very much for joining us. I hope it's been informative. I hope you've enjoyed the session. I hope you now want to go and live in Portugal, or certainly make those stepping stones to go there. I'm sure, personally speaking, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Thank you.